Thank you all for being here. When we decided to do these meetings a month or so ago, actually 2 months ago, had no idea what to expect or anticipate. I just knew that it was an interesting position that I was in, running unopposed. Very happy and thrilled to be endorsed by the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Conservative Party. But at the same time, running unopposed, I want people out there and the citizens of Hudson to really know that I want their support, I want their vote. And, I've had people come, you need to do a debate. I said, yeah, well, I'd love to do a debate. But, when I'm debating myself, and I hopefully, not necessarily a debate, but more of a conversation with the community. So, people feel free to call in if they want. Hi there. You here for the Rector meet and greet?
Yes.
Fantastic. Or to play games, because we can do both.
Both sounds good.
Thank you. It's a hard call, but I wanted to be able to talk to as many citizens face to face as I possibly could, other than knocking on people's doors, shaking hands, trying to go just about every event that you possibly can. I wanted to give the residents a chance, and decided that the best way to do it, especially in keeping with both this button and what happened last year with a resounding fair and equal vote within the city of Hudson, that creating this one Hudson, but taking each ward and unifying each ward into the one Hudson. And consequently, you have this logo here that is really 5 wards now of equal population coming together as a puzzle to form one Hudson. It sounds idealistic as heck, I understand that, but it's something I truly believe. And at the end of the day, I hope to be able to say that I reached out in both as a candidate and as hopefully as your mayor to as many people as I possibly can to form a consensus of what's better for the town of Hudson, or the city of Hudson. So, again, we had, I think 75 people at the last meeting. About half of tonight are our city officials. Thrilled everyone's here. Couldn't be happier. It's a very casual scenario where I hope you really to engage each other. At the end of the day, I want to hear some of your stories too about what's going on in your lives and what you see the issues of Hudson. The issues of Hudson, for the most part, and I think we'd all agree, that's one thing we can agree on, are the basic issues that we're facing every day in the city. Economic development, housing, parking, the DRI, the famous DRI. Sure, so you made it. How are you?
Hello, everybody.
Howdy. And part of this group tonight that I'm thrilled to have our new duly elected alderman from the 3rd Ward. Would you guys please stand up and introduce yourselves to the crowd?
Hello, everyone. I'm Calvin Lewis. I'll be the new alderman of the 3rd Ward.
Welcome. Hey, congratulations.
Hello, my name is Shamizan. I'm running for office in Alderman in 3rd Ward. Hopefully everybody is supporting me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thrilled you're here. Quickly, we also have some other people, and I'll do it very quickly. We have Tom DiPietro, who is on the ballot as president of the Common Council. We're thrilled to have Tom here. Tom should be elected pretty easily. He's running unopposed. Eileen Halloran, who's running for alderman from the 5th Ward.
Against everybody imaginable. Wonderful opposition, right?
Hello, madam. Welcome. How are you?
Hello.
We have chairs. We have a bank cap back there. Sure, Sean. So
I can see
wherever grab a chair though. I apologize to everybody that tonight, bizarrely, because of yesterday's holiday, the Common Council moved their meetings from Monday to Tuesday, and when these were being planned a couple of months ago, it wasn't on the city calendar yet as a revision. So I'm going to try to wrap this up as closely to 7 o'clock as possible so I can make an appearance at the Common Council. I would hate to miss one of those meetings, especially in election years, you can understand. It's my duty to still represent my 1st Ward as their alderman. So I will be as brief as I can about myself. Let you ask any questions. Just very, very quickly, I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I moved to, was in the fashion business from Dallas to New York City as an executive, ran large companies, and started coming to Hudson over 25 years ago. And over the 25 years, we've all seen such dramatic and incredible change within this community. I moved here 10 years ago. I was a weekender in the area for 15 years, but I moved here officially 10 years ago, and have loved Hudson ever since. I've always loved Hudson. I've always got a kick out of it. When I first moved to Hudson, and poor Miss Thurston is so tired of hearing this story, I say it everywhere I go. But when I first moved to Hudson, I knew I wanted to get involved, and there's a lot to get involved with within this small city. And so I was talking at one point to Ellen, who was the alderman, I think, at that point for the first ward, or no, the third ward. And she was visiting. She goes, "You know, Rick, what we do in Hudson?" I said, "What's that?" She goes, "We go to meetings." And you know, it's a story I repeat often and often because, candidly, it's amazing. People here in Hudson do go to meetings and they do participate. It's often the same amount, the same group of people, and you know, you get to know them pretty easily. But it's something that I started out doing, and I went to every possible meeting I could, from the school board to the county meetings, to every committee meeting from the city council, and ultimately was deciding where I'd like to get involved. At that point, Rick Scalera, the mayor, very kindly appointed me to the Historic Preservation Commission. And it was an interesting time. It was also because I had not been in Hudson that long, and people were saying, "Oh, he's friendly with this person, he's friendly with that person, he hadn't been here that long." And it was the first time, I think, one of the few times that our local blogger, Carol, someone wrote a comment about it, and I think I replied. I don't do that very often. And saying, that, yes, I'm friendly with this person. I'm also friendly with this person. Someone's going to get mad that I'm with this person. But that's how I want to conduct my life. I want to talk to and engage as many people as I possibly can. And I think that that's hopefully been my reputation. I'll be sitting at Cascades having lunch with somebody, and someone who doesn't particularly like that person will come in and just frown at me, as you can imagine. But the only way I'm going to learn about this community, to learn the people, is to engage as many people and get as much advice and experience as I possibly can. So I will open up every door. I think part of one Hudson issue has been over the years, some people like to close a door. And you know, and in the city of Hudson, you know, the collective or the institutional memory changes every 2 years, and especially in the mayor race. So, because a mayor comes in with a somewhat good amount of authority, but oftentimes it's a 2-year position, and they're gone. And if there's not a friendly transition, it's all out the window and starting from scratch. So I'm very lucky that the current mayor has included me in as much as she possibly can, or as much as I can absorb, and do this as run for office. I am very excited about becoming the mayor of Hudson, and I have a lot of good ideas. But the most important idea that I have is how I can work with the community and how we can achieve goals together that benefit all of us. And that is central to my candidacy. Hello, sir.
Hi.
How are you? I'm good, thank you. Welcome. It's central to my candidacy. Please jump in. If you're here to play a game, it's going on right. Pull out a game card. And it's central to my candidacy. It'll be central to me, hopefully, being mayor of the city, is working with people to what I call finding the common goal that we all consider important and creating a One Hudson. This is the most unusual election. As you know, as I said, very happy, thrilled. I've been a Democrat most of my life. Grew up in Oklahoma as a Republican, interestingly enough. But I switched when I moved to New York City, and I've been a Democrat most of my life. But the Republicans came to me and said, "We'd like to talk to you." And I said, "Sure, I'll talk to you, like I'll talk to anybody." And they said, "We'd like to endorse you." And I said, "Well, you know, please realize that you endorsed me. You know, my promise to you is the same as I make to my own party. You know, everyone has a seat at the table, and you can call me anytime you want." The same thing happened with the Conservative Party. So I could not be more honored. And I think it's a bit of an indication of what's happened in Hudson. Hudson's gone through a tremendous change. And it's, I think Fair and Equal was probably the most eye-opening experience for a lot of us in the world of politics, how easily that happened. So again, I want to work with everyone in this community. Another aspect of the election is that I think that 90% of the candidates were endorsed by the Republicans, and the Democrats were endorsed by the Republicans, and I don't know if it's a close figure. And I think, you had the endorsements, didn't you, Calvin? And Shershawn? Yes. And I think other people, but specifically here, Chimides, he just had he did not have the Democrat. But it's a fascinating thing, and what's really going to be interesting, people during the primary may have lost the primary, they're going to the general election, so it's a fascinating political scenario here in Hudson. Just quickly, CNN, I read an article now, CNN posted that during 2000 to 2016, more than half the races for mayoralship in the United States where the position was won by no one running against the other person. So the mayor being unopposed. And I think that just shows in a small town, and I've said this about Hudson, we walk down the street, I don't know who's Republican, I don't know who's a Democrat. It doesn't really matter in a small town because people know you, and they know what your values are, what you stand for, what you've been doing for the past several years. And that's where I say I'm thrilled and honored to have these 3 endorsements going into this race. The big questions about what's going on in our community, and I'll also take it to what's important to me, where I see the issues are, and then and start this conversation with you. Our people are the most important thing here. I think the diversity of this community is something that has brought us a lot of joy. It brings a lot of conversation. It brings a lot of of realizing that we're living with a variety of different people on a daily basis, and I think that makes such a rich culture that we're all living in. Secondly, very important to me, are our children. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but it's our children and how we nourish them that I think that we all have to be very aware of. Thirdly is economic development. And economic development, to me personally, encompasses a lot. It encompasses housing, how we're dealing with housing within our community. Because good, strong housing is good, strong economic development. Our businesses, always bringing in and talking to potential businesses coming within the community. Careful and smart waterfront development for the entire community is exceptionally important to me, especially what we're going to be talking about, the DRI, and access to that riverfront. Our rich history of the people, the places, and the architecture. Hudson has an incredible history, and people in places around it, from Alana to being an old whale town. It's just an amazing amount of history here. And the architecture is something from historic preservation that I've gotten very familiar with. And lastly is the LWRP. LWRP is a long-term planning for most of the community, and that's something that we've been working on and off for decades. And I would like to see that finally get put into place effectively. There's been a lot of conversation about affordable housing that we've all heard, and we've discussed just about every meeting, and so I welcome your thoughts, your ideas about that. The other thing I want to do in this community is very simple, is start to modernize Hudson. The fact that we we still have to walk into City Hall to pay a water bill or a tax bill, that or you can mail it in. The fact that we can't do that online is questionable to me. The fact that we still go buy little blue bags at the City Hall, whether from an individual through a dispensary, lovely dispensary machine, right in front of our historic City Hall. And these are the questions that I'd like to address and I'll be having with the community. And lastly, I want to be every department head within this community, give them clear goals with accountability. And I'm not sure that's really happened over the years. So my agenda, and this is something I've been saying very sincerely for the past 4 years as a politician here in the city. My agenda is very simple. It's be fair, be honest, be dependable, be respectful, which is very important, and do what I think's best for the entire community. And with that said, that's a little bit about me. So with that, I would love to answer any questions, any comments. Again, my goal is to be out of here by 7, but if we find the conversation's going on, I'll reschedule this, and we can come back together for this ward, or you're more than welcome to go to any of the other three ward meetings following this. Okay? Yes, sir. Would you please just tell me where you're for the audience, I know, for the audience, where you are, where you live?
Yes. Hi, my name is Dan Jacoby, and I've lived on Rossman Avenue now for 7 years. And I'm a full-time resident. I live with my partner, and he is very ill, and so he wasn't able to come tonight. And we lead what I would call a very inconspicuous, quiet existence. So my questions, I think, are more selfish quality of life questions at the moment. You're the first mayor I've ever had the actual opportunity to talk to in this kind of forum, so thank you very much for that. My first question has to do with the whole exercise for creating permit parking around the hospital, which has been a big issue on Rossman Avenue, on Prospect Avenue, on Worth Avenue, on all the avenues and streets around the hospital. I know there's been an effort on the part of the Common Council to introduce a new law or bylaw or something that allows for permit parking, but that now has to be blessed somewhere in Albany, I believe.
Yes, any new law has to be approved by Albany.
Yeah, so that's one issue that I'm concerned about. The other has to do with abandoned buildings, of which there seem to be quite a number in Hudson. There's one in particular that's right next door to me that's been vacant since I moved here. And it's eventually...
On Rossman?
It's around the corner on Prospect Avenue. There is another... I live in an arts and crafts bungalow, and the second house up the street on the right, and then next to me on the corner is another arts and crafts bungalow, which is in turn adjoined to another arts and crafts bungalow on Prospect Avenue. And that second building has been abandoned. All the time I've been here. And this is not the only instance of a building of this sort. I'm sure there are a number of buildings that are empty for various reasons. This one, I think, had to do with the fact that the person who lived in it died, and the thing had been reverse mortgaged to the hilt, and the banks had been trading it from one player to another, and I don't know if the town has been paying much attention to it. But I think that, you know, it's an issue that, you know, is of concern to me, is it could be a fire hazard. So I guess those two things, there are many such things, but the question of parking and the question, or parking permits, and the question of abandonment or empty buildings, I was just curious what your thoughts on these subjects might be.
Parking is, you know, one of the biggest topics in Hudson. And if you go to a planning meeting, a zoning meeting, historic preservation meeting, or any of the three regulatory, when people are wanting to do something, whether they're opening up a business, building a new building, which doesn't happen very much anymore because we don't really have the room to build a new building, or trying to redo a house through historic preservation, or just getting a simple building permit from code enforcement, the number one question is, what about parking? And in a town the size of Hudson, you know, we used to have double the population, and cars were 5 times as big as they used to be, but there weren't as many people that had automobiles. So these are all the questions. Parking, honestly, is especially by the hospital. You know, when you have that many employees, you know, coming to work, and the hospital's not offering that many parking spots, so they're parking everywhere. And again, parking permit will hopefully resolve that, and I will continue to pursue that. You know, that is one viable. I wish we had another parking garage in the area, because a better parking garage for the employees would make sense. But again, it's space. And so, you know, I'm with you. I used to be a realtor, and you know, especially in Rossman Avenue.
The Bel Air of Hudson.
Well, it's a lovely neighborhood of Hudson. And it's, you know, and I would go there and I would see, you know, people just parking and, you know, up and down, and it's a little crazy. So, you know, I think the permit thing may resolve that, or help ease it. I would also push to do another sort of a garage and work with the hospital and the community to see if that's a possibility. Again, as a candidate, you know, and I'd like to I'm not going to be making a lot of promises. My promises are to listen to people, to hear the issues, and work with the community in trying to resolve those issues. But I know that I have been working and discussing this permit thing. That was even in place before I became an alderman in the previous common council. So let me update you on that, you know, down the road. But again, I would support that because it is one thing that we can do. Secondly, about the abandoned buildings. Well, if they're not, you know, the easiest way is they're not paying their taxes. In a building, if it's not paying their taxes or keeping up with, the woman in the back of the room, our city treasurer, is going to know about it immediately. And that's something, you know, and so if taxes generally are paid up, it's not, well, it's a big issue still because it's an abandoned building and you have all the issues you were talking about. If you ever feel, and this is very important, I say this as an alderman, I'll say, if anyone ever feels that something's unsafe, please call your alderperson or call the city code enforcement office, because that's their responsibility. And they will come out and look at that building. If you think that my God, the stairs are falling off, well then Craig Haig, who is very responsible for the most part, will come out and check on those stairs for you and advise whoever the owner is. That particular building, from what I understand, and I don't know the nuances of it all, I think it's in some sort of litigation. So, you know, but the taxes are being paid. I think this year, you know, this is an aside from abandoned, you know, or properties that have not been paying taxes or taking care of things. You know, this year we had 13 properties and we're down to 10 now.
No, we started with 102.
Well, 102 at the beginning of the year, and then people start clearing it up. And we'll be doing an auction in the next couple of months for 10?
12 properties.
12 properties. And that's how the city, you know, deals with that. There's also another issue, not abandoned buildings are not kept for, abandoned buildings that I would like to see back on the marketplace for housing purposes. And as a mayor, I will work with those developers. And I've had these conversations already. What can the city do to get buildings back on the marketplace? Because what that will do, no matter if it's affordable rents or it's market price rents, at least it starts to take a little bit of the pressure off everything else. So the more rooms, apartments available, the better off it's going to be. So I will do whatever I can to get as many properties back on the market. And recognizing the fact that a developer, you know, they're going to want to put a property on the market. They're going to, you know, and especially if they want to do something at an affordable price, that's going to cost us probably something. And they're going to ask for a pilot or something. So that's when we can have that question of affordable housing. But yeah, you know, please, if you see a house that's in need and it's not being upkept, or you find it might be dangerous to somebody, please, you know how to get in touch with me, or I'll get you, or Craig Haig. Or if you see something dangerous, call the police immediately, because the police or the fire will get there and take care of it.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here.
And well, thank you for your thoughtful answer.
Please, well.
Rick,
Yes, sir.
I know the hospital did an initiative to purchase co-work, and they did purchase it.
Yes, they did.
And they're going to do plan a parking garage, Eden Park, so that might help a little bit.
Dominic's absolutely right. There's a whole parking plan they have. You know, whether it all comes to fruition, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And you know, again, as I said, I will work with them as much as I possibly can to see that. But they did two plans: one across the street in that old medical building, and then what they're going to do with the old co-work space. Thanks, Dominic. Don't be shy, people. You have at it. Yes, sir.
In the past, there's often been a hostile relationship between the Common Council and the mayor.
It's just going to get worse.
So since we sort of like each other, how do you think it's going to work?
I think it's going to be fascinating, and I couldn't be more excited about the potential and the possibility of both Tom and myself having a very similar mentality and an approach to how we do things. And, you know, we're not always going to agree on all the issues. But at the beginning, you know, starting in after the elections, we're going to start meeting. Hopefully we will have these meetings and we'll come to some conclusions that we both want to pursue. I will be your best, you know, a supporter, and I'm expecting the same. I will also be attending most of the Common Council meetings. I'd like to get involved, you know, not involved, but I will also be attending most of the committee meetings. I do already, and I kind of always have. But I think, you know, if we can forge those similar agendas, and then we can get the committees to start working on these items, you know, it's just going to be a plus for the city. And I could not be more thrilled. You're the next Common Council president and be working at your side. Our offices are right next door to each other, so, you know, we can pound and scream and shout. But I think it's going to be very healthy for the community. And, you know, it's not going to be every day that we agree, and we will have those conversations. I'm also happy that, you know, you have a relatively new council, you know, and I will help you, and I'm not the biggest veteran, but I can certainly help as much as I possibly can in helping you get that, you know, become the council where it wants to be. So, Tom, I couldn't be more excited about it. Anything else? Yes, sir.
In a similar vein, I'm Don Moore. I'm the one-term third ward supervisor in Hudson. I'm only serving one term because it's a fair and equal, which of course I've ardently supported. But I think that one of the areas that I know you started work on, because the issues of space and the county's interest in acquiring John L. And that brings up the issue of space. So that what could the city do to expand its space for its offices at the very least? But generally, the point is having better relations between the city and the board. You know, it's not always there are times when it would be very helpful to be able to have some conversation that goes on between the mayor's office, conceivably the council, and the supervisors, or at least the board. And one of the things that I was told is, of course, that the chairman of the board of supervisors and the mayor have never had a conversation. And I think that's, you know, and I was told that by one of the Republicans on the board. And I think that's, you know, I know how busy everyone is, and I know how difficult it is to get to achieve that, but I think it is one area where the city could benefit, particularly when you're talking about, say, affordable housing or addiction, where these are being identified as countywide issues, and we're having some sort of presence and conversation would be really helpful.
I couldn't agree more, Don, and I want to, again, and I will vocalize this, I plan on having a quarterly meeting with Tom, myself, and all 5 supervisors from the city of Hudson on a quarterly basis. If anything, you know, to just that the 7 of us are talking the same language when we're dealing with a bigger county. And again, we're not all going to get along, but at least we've sat down, we've had this conversation, whether it's a breakfast or just a regular, you know, meeting. But I really want to engage the 5 supervisors within this city. So Hudson, as always, you know, gives us a lot more strength to 7 versus 1. I will also, I think you know, will engage myself with the county. I look forward to conversations with the county about Hudson, and you know, Hudson getting its fair share of things. Whether it's John L. Edwards, whether it's something else that the city decides it will do, but and I know a lot of those players, and so I think it's a great suggestion, and I came to this conclusion: we have to all meet. And I hope you agree with that, Tom. You know, sitting down with the 5 supervisors, because oftentimes we don't know what's going on in the county, and the county has no clue, or even the supervisors. A lot of them don't have a clue. Most of you are pretty good though about coming to the Common Council meetings and getting a general idea of that. But again, let's work together. And it goes back to everything. Let's all work together. At that level, at a bigger level, and a much greater level for all of Hudson. So I totally agree with that. You look perplexed. Anything? Come on. Well, okay, I'm going to throw out a couple of things. The DRI. This is a big question, a big conversation. And, you know, last month the city of Hudson was awarded $10 million by Governor Cuomo. It was an interesting process. It was a process that was given to the city to do very quickly. I think, you know, it was not handled perfectly, but nothing is perfectly. But at the end of the day, Hudson kind of got it together. Between Sheena, the mayor, and some other very clever citizens, worked with the community in a couple of community-wide meetings and other committees to put the presentation together to go in competition for $10 million for a downtown revitalization initiative. What they came up with was creating what they call the bridge area, and that is from 2nd Street down to the river, from the North Bay to the South Bay. And within that were, I think, 12 projects, Branda's, I think around 12 projects that had to be shovel-ready and very, very specific. So the geographical area had to be specific, and the various projects had to be very specific in a very quick amount of time. Thankfully, and I couldn't be happier, we got $10 million. Now that $10 million has become so controversial, it's interesting. And there's been more conversation about the $10 million that the city got from the state to do some things versus our $11 million budget that we do every year that we're asking you all to pay for. You know, those meetings are usually no one attends. And that's, you know, to me that's just interesting because, you know, the budget is how the city functions. The DRI is a one-shot deal. What I see about the DRI, what's always been important to me about the DRI, is it really, at the end of the day, it's providing some much-needed infrastructure in an area that's been neglected over the years. And with that infrastructure infusion, we can hopefully expect a world of some, you know, new interest from developers who may want to develop some housing, some affordable housing, or someone who wants to do some retail in an area that really is crying out for some retail from street-level activity. And, you know, improve our parks, that the whole town can have better access to it, our children. So I couldn't be more excited about the DRI. It's going to be a very quick process. Last week it was announced the 20-plus people, 23 people that are on the committee. And if you all can imagine 23 people making decisions within the community, being involved in every public meeting. Our current mayor and a representative from the Department of State will chair the committee, and we'll get this going this month. So it's going to be a very quick process. I encourage all of you to please attend as many of the meetings, and there will be a lot of meetings and a lot of public input asked. But you can have a big part in really saying what is going to be happening within the city. And from what I understand, you know, this is the only second year they did it. They started this out in last year in Glens Falls. I've heard a little bit about, and I want to go to Glens Falls probably the second week of November and talk to their mayor about how the process went. But I think they had about the same amount of project. Some didn't make it. Some new ones came up. You know, so it was an interesting mix. But it is a great opportunity for the city, and it's not going to affect the entire city, but it will affect all the citizens within the city, I think. And at the same time, the current mayor and our Sheena Salvina from the Hudson Development Corporation, and I've been very involved in this, have decided to do a parallel project for affordable housing along with the DRI. So as the DRI starts to put in infrastructural changes within this bridge area, HCDPA, which is a non-profit within the city of Hudson, it's not part of the city government. HCDPA and IDA are outside the city government, but HCDPA, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he's on all these committees. You can tell me in a second, I'm not so far off. HCDPA owns a nice amount of inventory, and as part of this inventory, the plan is to do a parallel project that we can start talking to developers along with the DRI, putting that in place to start possibly down on State Street 100 units. And you're going to be hearing more and more about this. Yes, sir. Correct me. This man is on the HCDPA.
No, they're both government. HTC claims not to be government.
Oh, well, yeah, I agree. They're all government, yeah.
IDA especially, it's
Yeah,
Hudson.
I'm sorry, yes, they're all part of the city, but HTC claims they're not. So that's, you know, the DRI's, you know, I think it is going to be it's going to happen very quick. So please, you know, don't hesitate to go to a meeting to get involved. Are there any questions about the DRI? Is that, yes, sir?
What role do you think you'll have in it?
You know, it's hard to say, and this is something you know, because it's happening so fast, and our current mayor was going to start the project, and we'll take it through in the beginning of January. By de facto, the mayor is one of the vice chairmen, so there'll be a conversation about it, you know. As involved, because it's going to take up a lot of time, you will see where that goes. Anybody else got your 2 cents on the DRI? Because I'd like to hear it, and I look forward to those meetings to hear what the community wants. You know, it's part of that, and this is a selfish thing. The Dunn Warehouse, is everyone familiar with the Dunn Warehouse down at the river? It's been, it's really the last of its kind in Hudson. And over the years, to have watched it deteriorate and from being on chairman of historic preservation, has really just made me a little crazy as the whole commission. And so as chairman of the Economic Development Committee last year, we got the state to give us a $500,000 grant to start refurbishing it. And that hopefully will start this month or next month. Hello, Peter. Welcome. That will start hopefully next month or now. And that just begins to shore the building up. Every day I drive down by there and you see one more brick falling over. The roof's about to collapse. It's so upsetting. Now, what can happen with the Downtown Revitalization Initiative? And my thought's only one thought. You know, there's a lot of people that's got a lot of ideas. And I will say, 5 years ago, the city tried to sell that building. Now the city didn't, thankfully. My vision for that is a community center with an indoor-outdoor farmer market year-round. To have a spot that we rent out to a kayak person, a bicycle rental place, a small cafe where you can get a cup of coffee and sit out and enjoy the Hudson River. The community center can be rented out during the week when the farmer's market's not there on a weekend. We can have events there. It's one more place to gather. So that's my dream. I know all of you have your dreams too about something. And we've had several different meetings where we've heard everything from a swimming pool to there's an aquarium conversation going on to a variety of different things that can be. And that's part of where I say, please come to the meetings. Have this conversation with us. Yes, ma'am.
To that point, and this probably is as much for Tom as for you, one of the things that is frustrating about government, both those who come into it and those who are served by it, is the lack of urgency. And matters go on. And the Dunn building is a perfect example of that. Several years back, money was spent to have a firm from, I think they were called Saratoga something,
yeah.
Come down and not say this is what you ought to do, but just give ideas, and they did, and nothing happens. And on the DRI, to add the complexity of another oversight committee of 23 people, I just wonder what thoughts both of you have about how to drive a process that has all the time in the world if you are government.
I'll start and you can finish because this is my meeting.
This is starting out well.
You know, I couldn't agree more. And you know, I did something last month. I went back and started reading minutes from the Common Council of 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and up to 5 years ago. We're talking about a lot of the same things today as we did back then. And you know, the sense of urgency, one of the problematic elements of that is the government changes every 2 years from the mayor, you know, so my initiative, you know, could change dramatically in 2 years. One of my bad qualities, I'm a little impatient, and it might be good a little bit, you know, in this position to get things and to push things through. But I truly agree with you. You know, in the DRI, however, the one good thing about it, there's so many people involved. Governor Cuomo is watching this very carefully. The State Department and you know the State Economic Development Group, they all have their eyes on Hudson. And if what happened with Glens Falls, by April, they had everything signed, so we're ready to do this, we're ready to do that, we're ready to do that. Yes, Carol, I'm sorry?
It was June.
June, well, early spring or early summer. So they had a very quick plan, but they met 1,000,000 times. But the state's not going to let us get away with dragging our feet. The state's not going to let us get away with mishandling this money. They want it spent correctly, and they want the ideas fast. And candidly, they want it completed within 2 years, which is going to be everyone's benefit. Yes, sir. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think it's great, because then we can claim, that was all because of us.
I agree. That's the Tom and Rick project.
Well, I would assume that there will be some role for the mayor and the council to play, or is it all going to come down from?
It's really on that committee. That committee.
Really?
Yes, and the state has a lot of say on that committee along with the mayor. But the mayor's just one vote.
And the people from the state come down a lot.
Oh,
Right.
they've been all over town this past week.
Right, and I don't think that's a
Yeah.
bad idea, because that is too much money, to not have a lot of eyes on it. It really is.
They're not giving us the checkbook to write the checks.
Right, but there has to be somehow, I would think, that the local government gets to weigh in.
It's, we'll see.
We'll see.
That's one of the reasons I want to go to Glens Falls.
Yeah.
The local government does get to weigh in just for the fact that our mayor's there, but it's really more of the public weighing in and making sure that there's a lot of public comment,
Right.
there's a lot of public approval, and that it satisfies a greater community than a few people. I see it.
If public property is involved, the council has to be
Right,
involved.
right,
Things like that.
right,
So there are
right.
certain things in
Right.
place that would prevent, just a wholesale taking over of everything.
Right, and that's where the question comes
Yeah.
back to, how do you see yourselves being able to move the council to act when it needs to?
Yeah.
Quicker. It always acts sooner or later, but to act more quickly.
How are you going to do that, Tom? No, I think the council's going to be in good hands with Tom.
I agree.
Well, thank you. But, it is about moving things more quickly. And I've tried to say from the beginning that I think individual council members really have to prove that they want to do something in this job. In the past, it's kind of been many people just sit in the position, and I expect more. I expect them to account for themselves a lot more. So be warned.
It's really going to be, I think, a good time for Hudson. Nothing's easy.
I think so.
Nothing's easy. And Hudson is we've seen, and I think it's an incredibly important time within this community that we're looking and facing and having some serious conversations about things that have been put aside or not thought about. At the same time, putting $10 million back into the community. And I will tell you, if we hadn't gotten this DRI, I was totally prepared as a mayoral candidate to come to these meetings and say, all right, we lost out on the DRI. I want to figure out with the city treasurer and with every politician in this community how we can raise as fast as possible $10 to $20 million to start investing in our community once more time. Because the only investment we've made in Hudson in the past several years is a water treatment facility and our new police station. And it's high time with the success of our community that we did put some investment back in for everybody. That's, I really believe that. Yes, sir.
After you bring that subject up, what might you have in mind for what types of investment, where?
It's really for predominantly infrastructural changes within the community. It's been from a sidewalk to curbs to, if you go down to Front Street where Basilica is and we have the grade level crossing over to the shanty town, is that what we're calling it now? Peter or Fragari or the Shacks or the old private club. There is no infrastructure down there. There's no signs. It's like, I call it the Wild Wild West sometimes, because sometimes you're in your car, you just kind of, and I've almost been hit twice and I probably almost hit people twice because just the lack of signage, proper lighting, all those things. That could be said within much of our community, especially the sidewalks. Will the DRI assist on sidewalks? No. But that's another conversation we will be having with the Common Council and other leaders of this community about the sidewalks within the city of Hudson. It's the second biggest complaint I hear next to parking on a daily basis.
In terms of private investment, I talked recently with Mike Tucker, who works for the County Economic Development Board. But our local IDA, on which I sit, also has hired him as an advisor. And one of the things that I don't think he really understood is that Hudson, we're not going to be able to reindustrialize Hudson. You know, it's taken a long time for people to finally absorb that. And one of the things I pointed out to him, we have a successful Manhattan publisher who's moved here. Now that provides a model, and we could easily become a publishing hub. So instead of, you know, looking for these companies that, you know, might somehow mythically reindustrialize Hudson, we should be focusing on that kind of business development. Things that are suitable to what's going on in Hudson. And of course, a internet hub makerspace has long been in the talk, and that could be covered by the DRI as well, because that is a kind
Yeah, that's when we start putting, that's why I say we start putting some investment down there, and we start, you know, within the community, that will give a developer, well, maybe I want to look at that town again. You know, they're serious. They want industry to, or, you know, clean industry or different kind of industry to come into the community, and that will bring jobs. But, yes, sir.
Could I share something, Rick? I'm Peter Young, 512 Orange Street. About 10 or 12 years ago, the Hudson Opera House had a seminar involving the topic of economic development in small communities. And one of the speakers was a woman named Clara Gould, who was a mayor of Beacon, New York. And she said the most brilliant thing I've ever heard about economic development. She said, if you want economic development in your town, make it a nice place to live. And I thought that was so insightful. She said, forget about corporate welfare scams and tax abatements and all the sort of desperate measures that communities sometimes resort to. Make it a nice place to live. Have a good hospital, good schools, take care of the roads, have a nice waterfront, a functional government, and people will want to be there, and you'll have all the investment you need. I just love that.
I totally agree. And I think that over the years, we've made this place nicer and nicer and nicer, and we will continue to do that, hopefully. So I think it's very good, and people come. That's the great thing about Hudson. You know, we got our issues, but a lot of people would like to have our problems. People want to live here. And when people want to live here, that's a great thing, you know. And it's a, you know, and we at the city, we're not, you know, we can't keep everybody here all the time. I mean, I moved to, you want to hear my old story? I moved to Manhattan from Texas, and you know, got priced out of Manhattan. You know, then my friend, they moved to Brooklyn, got priced out of Brooklyn. People are here, you know, in Hudson, and you know, I pray I can stay here. I hope that Hudson will be the place where, you know, I'll live the rest of my life. But there's no guarantees. But it's an incredibly vibrant community with the amount of entrepreneurs and talent that are here because of people like Peter and other people in this room that have brought the attention and brought the interest level to Hudson. So these are good problems to have. How we work together to solve some of them, that's our big challenge. And that's where I want all of you to please feel comfortable in the next 2 years to knock on my door, hit me over the head. You know, call it, Rick, this is crazy, why are you doing it? Have this conversation. I'd much rather hear you do that than, you know, than go on some blog and talk bad about me. Not yours. Anybody else? Well, I thank you again. You know, listen, I really appreciate it. This is a Tuesday night. This is, again, I'm doing this tomorrow night at the library. And then there are 2 more after that, up to, I think, when's the last one?
24th.
The 30th in the 5th Ward, or the 2nd Ward.
5th is later.
Oh, I'm sorry, here it is right here.
24th is the 5th.
Yeah, the 2nd Ward is the 30th, and the 4th Ward's tomorrow, and the 5th Ward is October 24th at the Crosswinds, right?
Yeah.
All right. So please, don't hesitate. I hope you all know how to get in touch with me. My phone number's on the city website, which is always interesting. You know, it's all of our phone numbers if you're elected officials right there. But you can go to my campaign website, rickrectorformayor.org, or hit me up on Facebook, whatever. But you know, I really want your support. I want your vote. I want this to be a better community. I look forward to working with as many of you as I possibly can in the rest of this town. And thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thanks, Rick.